Okay, can you hear me okay?
We can indeed, yes.
That's great. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so I work as an information assistant part of the week, and the rest of the week I'm a senior information assistant. So this overview kind of takes in both of those posts. So Ulster is a civic university with an enrolment of over 27,000 students, but we have 4 campuses across Northern Ireland, and we've got distance learners from across the world. There's a library on each of our 4 campuses, but we actually serve as one big library, and we move our stock around from one end of Northern Ireland to the other when we need to. And we have about 100 staff, and we have a very student-focused approach. So in March last year, we announced via Twitter that we'd be closing our doors and we'd be supporting students remotely. I don't think any of us knew what was ahead of us, and looking back to that time, I just know I've learned so much. So our immediate response was to move to working and learning remotely and to provide online services. The shift in practice to home working was problematic for anyone without a good laptop, and communicating digitally was unfamiliar to many. Our working lives became very digitally focused, and as we learned new skills daily, we could understand how the students must be struggling to acquire these new skills and keep up with their academic work and learn to navigate our enormous online library. Ulster has had an e-first acquisitions policy since 2013, but even with that, e-resource orders increased by almost 400% in some faculties. An existing major supplier also went into administration in May last year, which added more stress to finding alternative e-resources. The subject librarians changed their model of support and their delivery of information literacy, moving to teaching via Blackboard, which is the student area on our portal, and communicating via Skype and Teams, and creating countless how to use and how to access videos using Panopto software. Panopto software records what you've got on your screen and also provides you with captions that you can then alter. As Max has showed us there, the captions can be ridiculous sometimes, what they come up with, but I'll talk a wee bit more about that. We also then updated our library website extensively. So we started with a very robust, flexible risk assessment framework in line with our own university guidelines, and our seating was restricted by up to 2/3. Our PC usage restricted the same way. Signage put in place for sanitising, mask wearing, using the one-way system. We had to manage our capacity with head counts, and students had to sign in for contact tracing as well. The user services staff returned to campuses in August, and we've been using a blended model of working from home and on campus. As numbers are restricted, our bubbles have been created, and it works out about half of the usual number of staff are on campus at any one time, and we do it over a fortnightly kind of rota where we're on campus 2 days 1 week, 3 days the other. So when we organised our new physical service, we had to reduce our opening hours, and a shelf browsing wasn't allowed. We introduced a reserve and collect service. At the start, like Dererka was saying, we had to issue them directly to people. It was very strange, but after several incarnations and working with our systems team, we have a good model now that's working well, and it's actually been developed by everybody in the team. Everybody's had an input, and their input has been valued. Reservations we find now take longer to satisfy, but that's mainly because we have 4 campuses, and when books are returned and quarantined, they then have to be transported, and this time of the year our transport goes down to 3 times a week, so it can take a lot longer sometimes for a book to be where it needs to be. Each campus has had a number of self-issue units, but we've dedicated 1 unit beside each information point, and there's always staff on hand to help if needed. The user services team have been great support for the subject teams. Like we have taken transcriptions for the Panopto videos and improved the captioning. We've also checked publishers' websites for e-resources. A huge part of the work for some members of the team have been to create and update digital reading lists. We have a key links platform where our reading lists are linked to our catalogue. Requests for scans from the DCS, the Digital Content Store, they've gone up by 350%, and to cope with that, more staff had to be trained how to do that in all 4 campuses. Document delivery was restricted to electronic delivery. We were able to get chapters and e-documents. We couldn't share e-books, but it affected our postgraduate students, of course, the most, although it is open to all students. But our upsurge in e-resources helped to bridge the gap some of the time, but not always. And when we reopened in August, the bulk of our inquiries were via telephone calls, and they were all directed to the user services team on the Korean campus. We had to introduce a rota so that calls were answered, and they were answered on campus and at home via Skype. We had to use the remote desk web, or RD web, to access Talus, our library management system, and that, as we all know, can be interesting to try and get to work. And well, these are just a few quick photos of our library as it's been. These were how we did our books. We had to kind of parcel them up so nobody could see what people were borrowing. And we had a lot of work around mask wearing, making announcements to remind people so that students and staff felt safe. So we have a hybrid model at the moment, and several factors have impacted the physical student experience. Our opening hours have been reduced as staff numbers were effectively halved by working in the bubbles and blended working, and it wasn't until Easter that we kind of opened up to 82% of what our hours were pre-COVID. Self-issue has been made more accessible. Systems removed exceptions such as fines and overdues, and any messages. And the only prompt to make someone take their book to the information point and to minimise contact was if a book had been recalled, because we've had trouble getting books back. Self-issue is always located close to one of our information points so that help is there if it's needed. Something that's come out of this is that our users have told us how valuable they find our study spaces, our IT facilities, our Wi-Fi. So many homes were in competition for PCs or laptops, even if they had one. And overall, the libraries have really been used as individual study spaces, individual study areas, and I think they'll be remembered as calm, peaceful and safe places that bridged the digital divide during the pandemic. Our borrower schemes, as a civic university, they've been suspended as only staff and students are allowed on campus. This has affected our alumni applications and our collaboration with the public library, Libraries NI, that actually allows civic access to books. Online, huge changes. Librarians have revolutionised online teaching, and they've been ready to assist people as if they were there in person. And they've used phone and email as normal, but they've also increased their use of Skype and Teams. And they've embraced Blackboard Collaborate, which is the student platform for teaching. And it's familiar to students as it's used by their lecturers. So they were able to answer queries, that appointments could be made, and students were taught the information and digital literacy competences they would need for that new style of online learning. Well, not new, but much more intense style of learning. Also online, the quick links on our website are more prominently displayed, and the user services team have helped with that. A lot of this was done as homeworking. We've checked subject guides to ensure all the videos and hyperlinks are up to date and working. As I said before, we've added and updated thousands of online reading lists and checked for ebook availability on publishers' websites and e-licenses. We've also enhanced our accessibility options. The proofreading and correcting the captions for Panopto videos means they can be understood without headphones, or if you're on your phone in a quiet area. And library chat has made it easier for everyone to access help. Some of the staff from here have attended DCU's Accessibility Awareness Week online and learned how to make use of Microsoft accessibility tools, which I think we'll use much more listening to some of today's presentations. So then moving on to our library chat, we've had that for a few years, but it has brought now a major change to our inquiry service. It's grown from what was a very small team pre-COVID to now more than 50 trained staff. There's a rota so that the 4 campuses are involved. People do it from home, people do it on campus, and it's available during library opening hours. Systems have installed a little widget that pops up to ask you if you need help, making it more visible and accessible. And because it's a similar format to instant messaging, it's familiar to people. And I think it helps as, no question's too simple. Students don't feel they're bothering us, and it's a quick response. And there's an option to refer the query on, which we're encouraged and encourage people to refer queries on so that it will be answered quickly and properly. So human connections, I think we've all got used to using Skype, and we've kept connected using that and Teams for training courses as well, and just for tea time catch-ups and to stay connected. Something unusual that's come out of it, though, is that staff from across our 4 campuses, from grade 3 up to grade 8, have been in meetings or training together, and that pre-COVID, that would have been impossible across the 4 campuses, or very difficult or expensive with, traveling. So staff and students have improved their digital literacy and have been able to practice their new communication skills. We've also used LinkedIn training, which has upped our softer skills. And while this knowledge is fresh, I think we have an opportunity to revise our procedures for user engagement and to invent new service models and boost accessibility. And now that self-issue has become the preferred method, while we have the chance, we can extend user service training to promote the use of it and rethink our fine limits and exceptions that can sometimes put people off. At the minute, we're currently focusing on getting books back, which is interesting as well. Library chat training needs to carry on. Certainly refresher training for part-time staff when they come back, so that everyone has confidence in the knowledge that they're passing on. All our paper-based procedures have been replaced with paperless shared documents that we share onto our OneDrive, and I think we can keep doing this and build on it. It's more sustainable, and data is available across the 4 campuses immediately. Again, the collaborative way of working with meetings with different grades, I think that is great and should be encouraged as well. I think we've all experienced it or know someone who's experienced how access or lack of access to equipment and software and good Wi-Fi has isolated some staff and students, and that's exposed a digital divide. Moving on, I think we need to work at ensuring equal access for equipment. We do have a laptop lending service that will come back in, but I think digital competence for staff and students needs to, we need to keep that going as well when we return to whatever is going to be normal. And finally, the knowledge and the experience that we've drawn from the past academic year really can take us forward positively. Having flexibility, creativity and adaptability has accelerated changes in the way that services are delivered, and I do think COVID has been a catalyst to new service models at Ulster University. We already know that one size does not fit all, but with the uptake of new tools and software to support learning, our blended model continues to meet users at their point of need and not what we think they need. By necessity, our staff are the most digitally capable they've ever been. We need to applaud our staff, but also embed those practices, backing up with refresher training to keep up with this pace. We've got into this pace of development to make sure that we are leading digital developments and that we can fully understand and empathise with the student experience. In the user services team, we are often the first to receive inquiries, either face-to-face on the phone or through library chat, so confidence in our knowledge, which includes knowing when to refer a query, are crucial to our public image. This is the perfect time to embed our culture changes into our new normal and turn our experiences from the pandemic into a positive step forward. And I think we are proof that when life gives you lemons, you can choose to make lemonade, or you can go and buy a bottle of gin. Thank you for listening.